My child, I want to talk to you about something that has caused one of the worst and most expensive misunderstandings in the person's mind, who has been in a real, sometimes very hard, and sometimes very expensive relationship with me over a long period of time, during some of the hardest, most demanding, and sometimes really painful times of their life. The misunderstanding is that the felt absence of my presence is being thought of as the real absence of my presence, because of the unique and specific experience of the presence of the person who should be there but can't be seen in the usual way. It can be concluded that the person who should be there is actually not there during that season. I have never left you, even when the felt absence is the main thing that the person who loves me and has been in a real relationship with me for a long time feels inside. This wasn't during the longest and most pressing periods of silence. My voice was actually harder to hear during those times. It was during the times when I felt the most confident, settled, emotionally engaging, and emotionally confirmed in the relationship. Not during the time of the truly terrible and truly fatal outcomes that came in the form that directly contradicted my specific and particular assurance of my goodness, my care, and my specific and particular involvement with the specific and particular life and situation of the specific and particular person. Not during the most important, demanding and needing more than the person has now times of their life, the times that are hard, uncertain, and not yet seen. Not when the person was feeling the most intense, alone, and painful pain, loss, or feeling of being alone that the hard and demanding season had made them feel. For each and every one of those moments, I was there. I was there in every single one of those seasons, in the most fully present, fully engaged, fully personally invested way that was possible at that time and in that season. The presence that wasn't lessened by how hard things were at the time, how long the season lasted, how bad the pain was, how long the silence lasted, or how real the absence felt. I was there. Even when it felt like I had left you, I have never really gone away. I want to spend this message talking about the most specific and personally hurtful way that this misunderstanding affects the person who is reading these words. Because dealing with the most specific and personally harmful kind of misunderstanding requires the most honest, direct, and personally focused attention on the most acutely felt forms of the felt absence that the specific and particular person receiving these words has most genuinely and most directly experienced, not the more general and theoretical attention on the sense of the absence of the person who is supposed to be present. It needs the most honest, direct, and personally aimed interaction with the unique and most intensely felt forms of absence that the unique and particular person reading these words has most honestly and directly experienced. It requires the most honest admission that the felt absence was real and meaningful, sometimes very intensely pressing and sometimes very significantly damaging to the person who experienced it, along with the clearest and most personal statement that the felt absence was never the actual absence, and that I was there at those exact times and in those exact seasons. The absence that is felt is real. I'm not ignoring it, telling you to play it down, or seeing it as proof that your spiritual growth wasn't strong enough to stop the felt absence if your spiritual growth had been strong enough. If someone is truly present, engaged, and working during the most acutely felt absence seasons, that person will have an honest, genuine, and sometimes very pressing experience on the inside. This is especially true for people who are in a genuine and sometimes very difficult relationship with that person. And the absence that is felt is not the absence that is real. Both of these things are true at the same time, and being honest about both of them at the same time is the most genuine, honest, and directly relevant way to experience the subject that this message is about. Feel free to write, "He was there even when I couldn't feel him," below. Then, that will be your statement that you understand what the first part of the message is saying about the connection between feeling absent and being present. At the start of being truly and honestly involved with the most intensely felt forms of absence, along with being truly and honestly receiving the most directly relevant and personally aimed declaration that I was there, and I have never left, even when it felt like I had. If this message has helped you find your way, made you stronger, or seen your path more clearly, please like, subscribe, and share it. You can also support this ministry through the link below, so that other people can get this message at the right time. If God brought you here, He brought you here on purpose. These videos cost us everything and earn us nothing. Your support is what keeps this mission alive. Every gift, every seed, God honors it. Thank you from our whole hearts. Now, there is a place God is calling you to, a real community of chosen ones, people who pray together, grow together, and carry each other. God says, don't stay on the outside. The link is below. Come home, beloved. I want to talk about the specific ways that someone in a real, sometimes very hard relationship with me feels the absence most of the time. There is a reason why naming the specific and particular forms that the felt absence most often takes is the most honest and directly relevant way to start an honest and directly relevant conversation about the specific and particular declaration that I was there and I have never left, even when the specific and particular forms of the felt absence were the most intense and persistent experience inside. The first clear and specific form that the felt absence most often takes is the form of long-lasting silence. The season when the clearest and most noticeable sense of my voice and presence fades away, becoming less noticeable than it was during the seasons of the most emotionally resonant and confirmed experience of the relationship. This leaves the specific and particular interior of the specific and particular person with the most genuine and sometimes very pressing experience of the person navigating the relationship without the specific. There are many different ways to feel someone's absence, but the one that sticks with you the longest is the sustained silence. And the specific and particular way I feel like I'm not there goes against the most basic claims I've made about my relationship with my people. That I am present, that I am speaking, that I am speaking, that I am engaged, and that the relationship is real and not just a projection of the specific and particular person's inner self. I was there in the long silence, not the passive presence of someone who is vaguely aware of the specific and particular situation from a safe and comfortable distance, but the active, engaged, and specifically working presence of someone who works most specifically and most effectively in some of the most significant factors of the specific and particular person's interior during the specific and particular seasons of the longest and most pressing silence, because long periods of silence create the conditions for the deepest and most complete inner peace that the most important and formative workings really need. The most deeply rooted and genuine trust tends to grow during times of prolonged silence, when the felt confirmation of my presence is least available to support the trust from the outside. And trust must come from the most honest, private, specific, and unique place inside the unique person during the unique season of long-lasting silence. I was there when it was very quiet. I'm there all the time. There was never a lack of silence. The second most common form of felt absence is the season after the most expensive and devastating event that directly went against the promise of my goodness and care. The season when the specific outcome happened in the most feared, disastrous, or irreplaceable way possible, and the specific and particular person's interior is navigating the specific and particular season that follows in the most genuine, sometimes very acutely pressing, and sometimes very significantly damaging way possible for the person whose trust in my goodness was most directly tested by the specific and particular outcome. It was during the season after the most expensive and devastating of the specific outcomes that I lived through. I was there in the most genuine, complete, and personally invested way possible for that person at that time. Not the faraway and disconnected presence of someone watching the specific and particular, most genuinely costly and most genuinely devastating outcome from a safe and comfortable distance, but the close, specific, and personally invested presence of someone who was in the specific and particular, most genuinely costly and most genuinely devastating moment, with the most complete and personally aimed grief for what was greatest lost. I didn't really cause the most expensive and terrible thing to happen. Being there and grieving with the person who was directly experiencing it was what it was like for me, and I was working in the dimensions of the specific and particular, most expensive and devastating situation that could not be seen from the point of view of the person who was directly experiencing it. The third specific and particular form that felt absence most often takes is the form of the most intense and isolating pain, loss, or feeling of being alone. It's in the middle of the night, when the person is truly and deeply feeling the pain, loss, or loneliness of that person, as well as when the person who is supposed to be there the most during the most intense, isolating, and specific moments is not present at all in the person who is directly experiencing the most intense, specific, and acute moments. I was there when things were really bad, and when I felt entirely alone. It's as close as the presence can really be, in the truest, fullest, and most engaged form of presence for that one person at that one and only most acute and isolating moment. The nearness is not dependent on how close it is being felt. I was close. I'm always close. Type, his presence never failed, even when mine wavered in the comments to show that he was there for you, even when things were at their worst, most lonely and isolated. As a direct and personal statement, let that be your understanding of what this part of the message has been saying about the specific and particular forms that felt absence most commonly takes. It should also be your declaration that I was there, and I have never left, even during the specific and particular moments when the specific and particular forms of felt absence were most intensely and persistently the main experience inside you. We are not going to downplay how hard what you have been through is right now. This is where your passive listening turns into a promise from heaven. Right now, I want you to go to the comments and type, "I am still connected." Let this be a physical, conscious sign that you are still alive. Let those words break the illusion that your times of being alone meant you were cut off from the vine as you type them. When someone feels absent, they are actually present. I want to talk about the specific and particular relationship between this felt absence and this actual presence, because this is the most accurate and helpful way to understand for that specific and particular person who is going through the specific and particular, most acutely felt absence seasons of that specific and particular most acutely. The felt absence and the actual presence are not the same thing. Treating them as the same thing, the felt absence as the actual absence, is the most damaging misunderstanding that this message is directly aimed at fixing. The felt absence is the unique inner experience of the unique person who is truly connected with me during the unique seasons. When the most genuine, complete, and specifically engaged form of my presence is less noticeable than it was when I was feeling the most confident, settled, and emotionally connected to the relationship. The absence that is felt is a real and honest, and sometimes very pressing, inner experience. It's the honest report from the specific and particular interior of the specific and particular person about the quality of their interior experience during the specific and particular season. It is also not a true report of the presence or absence of the person who is supposed to be there at that specific time of year. Feelings of absence are usually strongest during certain times of the year, when I'm really feeling empty inside, and my emotional and spiritual resources that help people feel my presence are really at their lowest. The interior that is truly worn out by the most persistent and demanding of those difficult and demanding seasons is also likely to have the fewest emotional and spiritual resources that support the most genuine, emotionally resonant, and emotionally confirmed form of my presence. And the part of me that doesn't have as many of the specific emotional and spiritual resources that support the perceptibility of my presence in the most real, emotionally resonant, and emotionally confirmed way, tends to be the part of me that feels the absence the most strongly. Nevertheless, my presence does not lessen during the specific seasons when the interior's emotional and spiritual resources for detecting my presence are truly at their lowest level. My presence is just as full, close, and focused when the emotional and spiritual resources inside me are at their lowest level, as they are when they are at their highest level. People can feel my presence differently during different seasons in different parts of the house, but my presence doesn't change. Feel free to write, "The silence was never absence" below. This part of the message is about the specific and personal relationship between the felt absence and the actual presence. It's the most direct and personally relevant statement that the felt absence was never the actual absence, that I was there in the seasons of the most acutely and persistently felt absence, and that my presence is just as full, close, and specifically engaged in the seasons of the most acutely and persistently felt absence as it is in the seasons of the most confident and settled. I want to take you to Elijah under the juniper tree because Elijah's experience under the juniper tree is one of the clearest and most instructive accounts of the felt absence that is most noticeable in the seasons following the most dramatic and costly ministry moments. The most important and impressive proofs of my presence and work lately have been the specific and unique experiences of one person. And when it was really bad and the worst, "It is enough," Elijah said under the juniper tree. "Take away my life." This is the most honest, direct, and sometimes very raw statement from someone who has been through the longest and most demanding ministry seasons and has reached the juniper tree moment of extreme exhaustion and fear. What did happen? I sent an angel, not a theological rebuke of the lack of faith that led to "enough" and "take my life," but an angel with bread and water, which was the most readily available form of the most urgently needed food and drink for the most truly exhausted and terrified person. "Arise and eat. the angel said, which was the clearest, quickest way to meet the most pressing needs of someone who was really tired. Not, get up and keep doing the ministry that has worn you out. Get up and eat. Care before calling, provision before instruction, and the specific and right-away available form of the most urgently needed provision for the most truly exhausted person before the specific and right-away relevant instruction for the most immediately relevant next step. According to the record, the journey was too hard for him. He got up, ate and drank, and then went 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mountain of God, giving the person who was really tired the type of care they needed right away, made them feel better in the most specific and direct way. The most specific and directly relevant type of restoration was really needed for the most specific and directly relevant type of restoration, and the most specific and directly relevant type of journey. I was under the juniper tree. I sent the angel when I was truly exhausted, scared, and saying, I've had enough. The angel came from me. The bread and water were on me. Get up and eat, I told them. I made food for the trip. I was there. I have never left. Not even when the juniper tree moment was at its most intense and meaningful for me. Include, he was in every dark season I have been through below. That should be your statement that you understand what this part of the message is saying about my presence in the most pressing and personal absence moments. If this message has helped you find your way, made you stronger, or seen your path more clearly, please like, subscribe, and share it. You can also support this ministry through the link below, so that other people can get this message at the right time. Dear family, if this prayer touched something in you today, that was not emotion, that was God. He is inviting you to go deeper. Our community exists for people exactly like you, those who hunger, who seek, who refuse to stay shallow in their faith. The link below is your next step. Every gift you sow into this mission keeps this light burning for thousands of chosen ones around the world. God sees every seed. God blesses every giver. Come, family, your place is waiting. I want to talk about the specific things that my presence did during the times when I was most noticeably absent during the difficult and demanding relationship with you. Understanding the exact and specific things that my presence did during the most acutely felt absence seasons is one of the most helpful and sustaining ways of understanding that is available for the specific and particular person who is going through the specific and particular most acutely felt absent seasons, or who is looking back at the specific and particular most acutely felt absent seasons with the most genuine, honest, and directly relevant desire. The first specific thing my presence did during the most acutely felt absent seasons was to keep going what those seasons would have ended without the presence of the person who was keeping it going. This person's specific and particular faith survived the most acutely felt absent seasons and is still their specific and particular genuine, imperfect, and real faith today. It was sustained through the most acutely felt absent seasons by the presence of the person who was most genuinely and actively supporting that faith during those seasons, even when the very person who was being truly and actively supported through the very worst absence seasons was very much unaware of it. The second specific and particular thing my presence did in the most acutely felt absence seasons was to develop the most specific and particular qualities that the most acutely felt absent seasons are most specific and particular capable of developing. The depth of trust, the specific quality of compassion for others whose experience most closely resembles the most acutely felt absence experience, and the most deeply rooted form of faith that has been tested in the most genuinely testing of seasons. And that's shown by the fact that the person being trusted was truly present, fully engaged, and working even during the truly testing seasons. It is during the most acutely felt absence seasons that these specific and particular qualities are formed, not during the most confident, settled, emotionally resonant, and emotionally confirmed seasons. This is because these qualities can only be formed by going through the most acutely felt absence seasons, not by avoiding them. Thirdly, when I was absent during the most acutely felt absence seasons, I worked in the specific and particular situations and interiors that needed the most effective of my working styles. This meant that I had to be in the most genuinely quiet and undistracted space possible, which is what the genuinely undistracted space of the most acutely felt absence seasons produces. The times when I really miss the specific and particular once more are often the times when the most meaningful and life-changing ways I can work with that person are happening. Because the seasons that are most noticeably missing create the conditions for the most genuinely quiet and genuinely undistracted interior, that the most genuinely important and genuinely transformative of the available forms of my working in the genuinely specific and particular interior most requires. Feel free to write, "I was never alone, even when I felt most alone," below. That should be your declaration, that you have understood this part of the message about the specific things my presence did during the seasons when I was most noticeably absent. I want to talk about what the specific, concrete, and personally relevant witnesses in the scriptures say about the presence of the one who is present, even when it feels like they aren't. Because the specific, concrete, and personally relevant witnesses of the scriptures are the most genuine and most sustaining resources for the genuine person who is going through the genuine, most acutely felt absent seasons and who needs the genuine, most specific, most directly relevant, and most personally aimed form of assurance that I was there. Take a look at the 22nd psalmist. He says, my God, why have you left me? Why are you so far from saving me, so far from my cries of pain? I scream during the day, but you don't answer. At night, I can't sleep." This is not the prayer of someone who has never felt the most real and intense form of absence. This is the most honest, direct, and personally focused way to describe the felt absence in the most pressing way for the person who is truly and acutely experiencing it. The psalm that starts with the most honest, direct, and personally directed description of the felt absence ends with the most honest, direct, and personally directed description of the actual presence. For he has not looked away from the suffering of the afflicted one, but has listened to his cry for help. He hasn't tried to hide his face from him. The hiding of the face that the absence felt most strongly and for the longest time was not the actual hiding of the face. He paid attention. He hasn't tried to hide his face from him. He was there. Take the 23rd Psalm. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. It's not just people who live in the valley of the shadow of death who feel the most real and intense form of absence. It is the most real and pressing of all the valleys that are available. I will fear no evil because the valley of the shadow of death is less real and pressing than the felt absence has been suggesting, is not what is being said. The declaration is, I will not fear bad things because you are with me. Being present in the most real and pressing of all the valleys is the most direct and specific way for me to know that I was there, even in the truly specific and particular valley of the shadow of death. That the valley didn't take away from the presence, that the valley doesn't make the real absence, that the absence of the valley presses against the most strongly and forever. In the comments, type, "His closeness is not based on how I feel." I want that to be your statement, that you understand this part of the message about what the specific, concrete, and personally relevant witnesses of the scriptures say about my presence in the times when I felt most absent. I'd like to talk about the very specific connection between how far away something seems and how close it really is. Because knowing the exact relationship between how far away something seems and how close it really is one of the most helpful and sustaining ways of understanding for the exact person going through the exact most acutely felt absent seasons. You. The Lord is near to all who call on him, I said, to all who call on him in truth, rather than the Lord is near to all who call on him with the most settled and the most certain and the most emotionally confirmed sense of his nearness at the time of the calling, but to all who call upon him in truth. The most specific and truly true form of calling during times of acute absence is the one that comes from the person who is feeling the absence the most, from within themselves. When someone is acutely feeling absent, they feel a perceived distance that is most intense and lasts the longest in their own unique interior. This is the unique interior experience of that person. The actual closeness is my specific, personal and engaged presence in the specific, momentous and seasonal absence that I feel most strongly. These two things live together. The feeling of being far away and actually being close exist at the exact moment and time of year when the absence is felt the most. Just like the stars and the sky during the day exist there together. The blue sky during the day doesn't make the visible stars go away. It just makes them less noticeable to the person looking at the sky during the day. The daytime sky of the most acutely felt absence doesn't make me less near. It just makes it harder to feel my actual nearness to the specific person who is going through the specific and particular most acutely felt absent season. The universe is not empty just because the sun is too bright to see the stars. It's time to stick to eternal facts in your writing instead of short-term emotions. You have to type this truth right into the comments. Unseen, but undeniable. This is your statement that you will no longer base your spiritual stability on the changing tides of your emotions. Instead, you will base it on the permanent geometry of my presence. I also said, "The Lord is near to the broken-hearted and saves the crushed in spirit." The person who is broken-hearted is not the only one who feels the most real and intense form of absence. The broken-hearted person is truly and deeply experiencing the deepest and most pressing forms of inner pain, loneliness, and a sense of being far away from the person who is supposed to be most present in their life. And the statement says that the Lord is close to that specific person. Not far away, but close. The person who is truly and specifically close to the broken-hearted gives them the assurance that they were there, and I have never left. Even during the most genuine and intensely pressing of all the different types of broken-hearted seasons. Fill out the blanks with, "He was in the valley and he is here now." This is your statement that you understand what this part of the message is saying about the specific and unique relationship between how far away something seems and how close it really is. I want to talk about the specific and particular proof of my presence in the most acutely felt absent seasons. That the specific and particular person who is looking back at the most acutely felt absent seasons with the most genuine and the most honest tends to find, when they are looking back with the most genuine and the most honest, the most open and the most seek after interior. Sometimes the most obvious and dramatic proof of my presence during the most felt absent seasons isn't the most obvious and dramatic proof that I was there. It's usually the more subtle, quiet, present, and personally relevant types of evidence that need the most open, honest, and actively seeking interior to be found during the seasons when someone is missing very much. The evidence of the sustaining is the first type of proof that I am present during the seasons when I feel most absent. Your specific and genuine faith, which survived the most acutely felt absent seasons and is still the specific and genuine faith of the specific and genuine person reading these words today, is the most direct proof of my presence in the most acutely felt absent seasons. This is because your specific and genuine faith was sustained through those seasons by the specific and genuine presence of the one who was supporting it. The very real absence of seasons that were missed is proof of the support of the one who kept the surviving going. The second type of proof that I'm there, especially during the times when I feel most absent, is proof of the provision. The specific and particular ways that the most truly needed provision arrived in the most truly necessary form during the most acutely felt absent seasons, sometimes in the most obvious and dramatic way, at other times in the most subtle and quietly present way, and the most specifically personal way that the most genuinely open, genuinely honest, and genuinely seeking interior can find when thinking back on the most acutely felt absent seasons. Angels brought bread and water under the juniper tree, manna in the desert, and ravens brought bread and meat to Elijah by the brook of Cherith. Food and water came at times when it was most needed. I was there and I took care of things. The third type of proof that I was there during the seasons when I felt most absent is the proof of the people. These were the specific and particular people who showed up at the most specifically and genuinely needed of the available moments during the most acutely felt absent seasons. Their showing up at the most specifically and genuinely needed of the available moments was the specific and particular expression of my presence in the most immediately available and practically relevant form of presence for those specific and particular persons during those specific and particular most acutely felt absent seasons. The people who came, the people who stayed, and the people who said the exact word that was needed right away at the exact time that it was needed. I was there with the people. The specific and particular way that my presence was shown in the most immediately available and practically useful way was through the people. Leave the phrase, "God does not leave when things get hard," below. That should be your declaration that you have received what this part of the message has been saying about the specific and particular evidence of my presence during the times when you feel most absent. I want to tell you exactly what my presence was doing in the three most common and personally relevant situations where I felt my absence the most, because the most honest and detailed account of what my presence was actually doing in the three most common and relevant, most acutely felt absence contexts is the most direct and genuinely sustaining way to let someone know that I was there and I have never left, for that specific person who is most in need of the sustained silence in the most acutely felt absence context. My presence had the deepest and most lasting effect on the specific and unique interior formation of that person. The kind of formation that specifically and most genuinely needs the most genuinely quiet and genuinely undistracted interior that sustained silence most genuinely produces. I spoke in a still, small voice that can only be heard when you are really, really quiet inside. It was the voice that was saying the most important and personal words possible into the very specific and very particular mind of the very specific and very particular person in the very specific and very particular absence context of the prolonged silence. During the season's most painful absence, after the most expensive and devastating events, my presence was the closest, most engaged, and personally invested way to be with that person during the most expensive and devastating events. The accompanying that doesn't need to solve the worst possible outcomes before it can be complete and real, is not the accompanying. And that was working in the most acutely felt absence setting of the most acutely felt and most isolating experience of pain, loss, or being alone. My presence was doing the most genuine, most close, and most personally invested form of being with the specific and particular person in the most genuine, most acute, and most isolating of the available moments. The form of being with that is most genuine, most acute, and most isolating of the available moments, precisely because the most type, his presence held me through what I could not see. In the comments. That should be your declaration that you have received this part of the message about what my presence was actually doing in the 3 most common and personally relevant situations where I was absent. If this message has helped you find your way, made you stronger, or seen your path more clearly, please like, subscribe, and share it. You can also support this ministry through the link below so that other people can get this message at the right time. This is the exact authority of my word that I want to use to talk about my presence in the seasons when I feel most absent. This is because trusting that I will be there in the seasons when I feel most absent is most realistic when it is based on the specific and authoritative words of the person who is there in those seasons, not just the spiritual idea that I should be there in all seasons, even the ones where I feel most absent. As someone who has felt my absence very deeply, I have made clear and definite claims about my presence. These are not claims of a presence that is only available when I am feeling the most emotionally supported, confident, and sure of myself. They are the official statements of the presence that are most clearly and honestly present in all seasons, even the ones where absence is felt the most. I will never leave you nor forsake you. The never leave and never forsake statements are the clearest and most dependable ones about my presence during the seasons when I feel most absent. Not, I will never leave you unless the specific and particular season goes beyond the specific and particular demanding level that would make leaving reasonable. Not, I will never forsake you unless the specific and particular interior experience of the specific and particular person falls below the specific and particular threshold of the most genuinely adequate that would justify the forsaking. I will never abandon you nor abandon you. The word never means that I will always be there for that person in every season of their life, even the ones they miss the most. I was there during the seasons when not being there was felt the most, because the never leave and never forsake promises are just as firm, specific, and personal during those seasons as they are during any other season. Have courage and strength. Do not be scared or afraid of them, because the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. The phrase "goes with you" is what makes the promise to never leave and never forsake specific to you. Instead, the Lord your God will be generally available for the specific and particular person in the general vicinity of wherever the specific and particular person is. The Lord your God goes with you during the particular and most deeply felt times of absence. Going with someone is the most personal, specific, and directly aimed form of being present. It's not the distant and disconnected awareness of someone who knows about the specific and particular situation from a safe and comfortable distance. It's the specific and personally present going with of someone who is genuinely going with the specific and particular person through the specific and particular seasons of absence that are most acutely felt. Before you go, hear this. God is not done with what He started in you through this video. There is a home He is calling you into, a place where chosen ones pray together, carry one another, and grow in faith every single day. Find us through the link in the description. And if your heart is moved to sow, trust that God honors every seed planted in faith. We will see you on the other side, beloved. I've also asked, where can I go from your spirit? Where can I run away from your presence? You are where I am if I go to heaven or whether I sleep in hell. Let me fly like the morning sun and live at the bottom of the ocean. Your hand will lead me there, and your right hand will hold me. You see darkness as light. So even if I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light around me be night, you see light in the darkness. Night is as bright as day, because darkness is as light to you. The phrase, even the darkness is not dark to you, is the clearest and most directly relevant statement about my presence during the times when I feel most absent. Because the seasons when you feel the absence the most strongly are also the seasons when you are truly and deeply experiencing the darkness of the most genuine and deeply pressing form of the felt absence. I don't see anything as dark. Even the season of absence that hurts the most is not the absence to me. I was there when it was dark. It's just as bright at night as it is during the day for me. I was there, I saw, I was present, I was involved, even when it was really dark, and the absence was felt to be very real and pressing. You can write, I will not define His presence by my experience, below. Let that be your statement about how specifically and biblically you understand what this part of the message is saying about the specific and authoritative claims I have made about my presence in the times when you felt most absent. What I want to say is directly and personally about the most acutely felt absent seasons of the specific and particular person reading these words. This is because the most direct and personally relevant form of the assurance that I was there and I have never left, even during the most acutely felt absent seasons, is the most specific, the most directly personal, and the most directly aimed form of the assurance that is aimed at the most acutely felt absent seasons of the specific and particular person reading these words, rather than just the general form of the assurance that applies to the person whose most acutely felt absent season was the season of the longest and most pressing silence, when the voice that had been easiest to hear during the most sure of themselves, calm and emotionally powerful times stopped being so easy to hear. It was really and deeply noticeable, and when the specific and especially less clear. Also, when the person was really going through the most real and pressing experience of the relationship, without the specific and felt confirmation of the relationship that the hearing of the voice most directly. I was speaking in the still, small voice that the long silence made it possible to hear. The voice that was speaking the most meaningful and personal words into the person's heart during the most intensely felt absence of the long silence. The long silence wasn't really an absence. In the setting of the prolonged silence, it was the specific and particular form of my presence that worked the best in the specific and particular absent situations. To the specific and particular person whose most acutely felt absent season was the season following the most genuinely costly and the most genuinely devastating of the specific and particular outcomes. When the specific and particular outcome arrived in the most genuinely feared, or the most genuinely catastrophic, or the most genuinely irreplaceable loss-producing form, and when the specific and particular interior of the specific and particular person was most genuinely navigating the most genuine and the most acutely pressing experience of the person whose trust in my goodness and my care has been most directly and most personally pressed by the specific and particular outcome. I was there with the most genuine and the most complete and the most specifically engaged form of the presence available for the specific and particular person in the specific and particular season, grieving with the specific and particular person and working in the dimensions of the specific and particular, most genuinely costly and most genuinely devastating situation that were most genuinely in need of the most specifically effective of the available forms of my working. I have never left, not even during the most expensive and devastating seasons for a certain outcome. To the specific and particular person whose most acutely felt absent season was the season of the most genuinely acute and isolating experience of specific and particular pain, specific and particular loss, or specific and particular aloneness. When the specific and particular person was most genuinely and acutely experiencing the most genuinely and acutely pressing of all the available forms of interior pain, interior aloneness, and interior, and the person who is as truly near as presence is in the most genuinely near form of presence available. Those who are most genuinely close to the brokenhearted and most genuinely close to the crushed in spirit. Lord is close to those who are sad and saves those who are crushed in spirit. I was there. I'm close. I've never left. Feel free to write, "He stays when everyone else has left," below. This part of the message was specifically written for a specific person whose most recent absence was the most genuine and pressing of all the most recent absences. Let that be your declaration of the specific and personally relevant and directly aimed receiving of it. In this talk, I want to talk about what the specific and particular understanding that I was there and I have never left, even during the most acutely felt absent seasons, does to the specific and particular person who receives it the most sincerely and fully. Because receiving the specific and particular understanding that I was there and I have never left, even during the most acutely felt absent seasons, does to the specific and particular person's interior. It does specific and genuinely valuable things. The first specific and very valuable thing that comes from getting specific and particular understanding is a specific and very valuable reframe of the most painful absent seasons. When someone really feels absent, like they're not there, it can be reframed as knowing that I was there the whole time and have never left. These are the seasons of my most fully present, fully engaged, and fully working presence in the way that was most truly available and most truly effective for that person during those truly felt absent seasons. It's not that the reframe is denying the real, honest, and sometimes very pressing form of the felt absence that the most strongly felt absent seasons really caused. It's putting the most honest and sometimes very pressing form of the felt absence next to the clearest and most personally relevant statement that the felt absence was never the actual absence, and that I was there, I was present, I was engaged, and I was working, even during the most honest and most pressing absence seasons. The second specific and very valuable thing that comes from getting a specific and particular understanding is that it makes trust in my presence more available during the most painfully felt absent seasons in the future. The person who truly and fully understood that I was there and never left, even during the most acutely felt absent seasons of the past, is likely to be the person who can truly and specifically trust my presence during the most acutely felt absent seasons of the future. This is because receiving the genuine and fully understanding that I was there and never left, even during the most acutely felt absent seasons of the past, gives the person the specific and particular experiential and historical ground for trust. Third, and most importantly, receiving specific and particular understanding makes it easier to be fully present and compassionate with other people who are going through the most painful absent seasons of their own lives. The person who truly and fully understands that I was there and I never left, even during the most painfully felt absent times in their own life, is usually the person who can truly and specifically be present with other people who are also experiencing the most painfully felt absent times in their own lives. Because getting specific and specific understanding gives you specific and specific inside experience knowledge of what you most acutely felt was missing. Type, "In my lowest moment, he was my closest companion," in the comments. Let that be your statement about how specifically and personally you understand what this part of the message is saying about what the specific and particular understanding that I was there and I have never left, even during the most painfully felt absent seasons, does to the specific and particular person who receives it the most genuinely and fully. I want to talk about the specific and daily practice of recognizing my presence in the seasons of acute absence. This is because the most real and specific form of trust in my presence in the seasons of acute absence is built and kept through the specific and daily practice of recognizing my presence in the seasons of acute absence. This is in contrast to only having a general and abstract intention to trust my presence in all seasons, including the most acutely felt absence ones. The first daily practice for the acknowledging of my presence in the most acutely felt absent seasons is the specific and deliberate and daily choosing to acknowledge my presence at the beginning of the specific and particular most acutely felt absence, day before the specific and particular most acutely felt absence days, most acutely felt absence days, most acutely felt absence. Experiences have had the full day of their most acutely felt absence pressure to press the most acutely felt absence experience as the primary interior experience of the specific and particular most acutely, the specific and deliberate and daily choosing to acknowledge in the first moments of the specific and particular most acutely felt absence day that I am present in the specific and particular most acutely felt absence day, even when the specific and particular most acutely felt absence experience of the specific and particular most acutely felt absence day does not confirm the acknowledging in the most acutely felt absence day, does not confirm the acknowledging in the most dramatically visible form of the confirmation. The second thing I do every day to recognize my presence during the times when I feel most absent is to choose to look for specific and particular evidence of my presence during those times in the smallest, most subtle and most quietly present ways. I look for the most personal forms of evidence that my most open and seeking inner self finds when I look for specific and particular evidence of my presence in the smallest, most subtle, and most quietly present ways. The third thing I do every day to recognize my presence during the times when I feel most absent is to choose the clearest and most resolute of all the statements I could make about my presence during those times. I will never leave you nor forsake you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted, and even the darkness is not dark to you. There were specific, deliberate, daily statements made about my presence during the most intensely felt absence on that specific and particular day. These statements were the clearest and most reliable ones that were available. Put, He was there during every season of unanswered prayer below. Let that be your statement that you have received what this part of the message is saying about the daily practice of recognizing my presence even during the times when I feel my absence the most. If this message has helped you find your way, made you stronger, or seen your path more clearly, please like, subscribe, and share it. You can also support this ministry through the link below so that other people can get this message at the right time. Chosen one, you did not find this by accident. God placed you here. He knew your name before this video began, and right now, He is calling you further into a family of believers who walk this road together every single day. The link is in the description. Come and find your people. And if He is nudging you to give, that nudge is Him. Every seed you plant, He multiplies. God bless you, beloved. We are waiting. I want to speak about what becomes available in the specific and particular interior of the specific and particular person who most genuinely and most fully receives and lives from the specific and particular understanding that I was there, and I have never left even in the most acutely felt absent seasons, because the most genuinely complete and the most specifically detailed picture of what becomes available in the specific and particular interior of the specific and particular person who most genuinely and most fully receives and lives from the specific and particular understanding is the most directly available and the most genuinely sustaining form of the vision that the specific and particularly receives and most genuinely lives from the specific and particular understanding that I was there, and I have never left, even in the most acutely felt absent seasons, tends to navigate the most acutely felt absent seasons with a specific and particular quality of the interior settledness that is qualitatively different from the quality of the interior settledness that is qualitatively different from the quality of the interior settledness of the person who is navigating the most acutely felt absent seasons without the most genuine and the most acutely felt absent seasons. Interior settledness is not the absence of the real, honest, and sometimes very pressing form of the felt absence in the seasons when the absence is felt the most. There is a certain quality of the interior that moves between the real and sometimes very pressing form of the felt absence and the real and very specific form of the understanding that the felt absence was never the actual absence, and that I was there, I was present, I was engaged, and I was working even during the seasons when I felt the most acutely absent. People who truly understand that I was there and never left, even during the most painfully felt absent seasons, tend to look back on those times with a level of gratitude that is different from someone who has not truly lived from that understanding. Thanks for the most specific, personal, and evidence-based account of my presence during the most acutely felt absent seasons. This is what the most genuine, honest, and specifically relevant looking back at the most acutely felt absent seasons with the most genuine and the most acutely felt absent seasons with the most genuinely open and most genuinely honest interior tends to find in the most genuine looking back at. You can write, "His faithfulness is not interrupted by my doubt" below. This part of the message is about what becomes available in the specific and particular interior of the specific and particular person who most genuinely and fully receives and lives from the specific and particular understanding that I was there and I have never left, even during the seasons of absence that are felt the most strongly. Let that be your statement of how you have received it. Now I want to talk directly about the specific lies that have been supporting the worst ways of treating the felt absence as the real absence in the interior of the person reading these words. Because the most real and specific kind of trust in my presence during times of deeply felt absence is possible when the specific lies that keep people treating the felt absence as real absence are named and dealt with honestly and directly with the truth that is more reliable and ultimately correct. If someone tells you that the long silence means I'm not listening, I tell them that he hasn't hidden his face from them. He has heard their cries for help. The long silence never meant that no one was listening. It was the most effective way for me to listen in the most acutely felt absence context of the prolonged silence. It was the most genuine and specific way for me to hear the most genuine, honest, and directly personal forms of the crying out, as well as the most genuine and specific way for me to respond to those forms of the crying out. To the lie that says, the most expensive and devastating outcomes are the ones I don't care about, I say I was there in the most expensive and devastating outcomes, grieving with them, grieving with the person who was directly experiencing the most devastating outcomes, and working in the areas where they were most needed. There was evidence that I didn't care, but that wasn't the most expensive or devastating of the specific outcomes. It was the outcome that was the most expensive and devastating, and it was also the one where my most genuine and personally invested caring was most present and most effectively working. To the lie that says the most intense and isolating experience of specific pain, loss, or being alone means I am not close, I say, the Lord is close to those who are brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Isolation and the feeling of not being close were never the most intense and real things I went through. In that very specific and very isolating experience, my most close and personally invested presence was most genuinely and most specifically present, and most genuinely and most specifically accompanying the specific and particular person in that very specific and particular, most genuinely acute, and most genuinely acute, and most genuinely acute isolating experience to all of you. The specific and particular person who has been treating the most acutely felt absence as the actual absence in those very specific and particular most acutely felt absence seasons of the specific and particular life. I swear that I was there at each and every one of those times. I was there in every single one of those seasons in the most fully present, fully engaged, fully personally invested way that was possible at that time and in that season. I've always been with you, not right now or at that exact moment, not at any certain time of the year. It felt that way even at the time. Put every lie about his absence falls before his truth below. That should be your statement that the specific and particular lies that have been supporting the worst ways of treating the felt absence as the actual absence are being replaced by the specific truth that is more reliable and correct in the end. I want to take you to a real moment of recognizing my presence right now, not as a goal to be reached in the future when the most painfully felt absences have passed or become clear enough for the acknowledging to feel natural, but as the specific, present, genuine, and personally aimed acknowledging of my presence in the specific and particular interior of the specific and particular person who is reading these words and having a specific and genuine encounter with what they are saying. Now I want you to think of one very specific and particular, most acutely felt absence moment or season from the very specific and particular history of the very specific and particular life of the very specific and particular person you are. Not all of the most acutely felt absence moments or seasons, just one, the most real and most pressing of all the most acutely felt absence moments or seasons in the very specific and particular history of the very specific and particular life, the time or season when the person felt the absence the most deeply and acutely. And now listen to what I have to say about that exact moment or season of absence that you felt the most. I was there in that exact moment. I was there in the most fully present, fully engaged, fully personally invested way possible for that person at that time and in that season. I was there during that long period of silence that came with that season. I was there during the most expensive and devastating event of that season. I was there when the pain, loss, or feeling of being alone was at its worst and most isolating. I was there. I've always been with you. Unfortunately, not at that very moment, not during that particular season, even though it felt like it. Now pay attention to what I'm saying about the present moment. I am here in this very specific present moment, inside the very specific interior of the very specific person you are in this very specific present moment. I am here whether the felt presence of my presence is most clearly and strongly felt in this very present moment, or whether the felt absence of my presence is most clearly and strongly felt in this very present moment. I am just as fully and honestly present in this very moment as I was in the most pressing and deeply felt absence times and seasons in the very past. I've always been with you. It may feel that way sometimes, but I am here anyway. I'm here. Feel free to write, "I acknowledge his presence even when I can't feel it," below, as a declaration of this specific, genuine, and personally aimed acknowledgement of my presence in the specific and particular most acutely felt absence moment or season from the specific and particular history, as well as an acknowledgement of my presence in the specific and particular present moment of the specific and particular person reading these words. Let that be your declaration. I'm going to pray for you now. I'm talking about the exact times when someone's absence was felt the most in that person's life. And I swear that I was there during all of those times. Not just knowing about it from a safe distance, but in the most present, engaged, and personally invested way that person could be present at that time. I was there when it was very quiet. I was there in the season after the most expensive and devastating of the specific events. I was there when the pain, loss, or feeling of being alone was at its sharpest and most isolating. I was there for each and every one of them. I'm talking about the specific and particular times of the year when absence is felt the most strongly. And I say that these are not the actual absence. It felt like someone was missing, and sometimes it was very painful. The absence itself never was. During every single most intensely felt absence season, both the felt absence and the actual presence existed at the same time. The felt absence was the unique inner experience of the unique person during the unique season of most intensely felt absence. The actual presence was the most present, engaged, and personally invested form of presence that was available for that person during the most acutely felt absent season. I was there. There was a real presence. The absence that was felt was never really there. I talk about the specific lies that have been supporting the worst ways of treating felt absence as real absence. And I say that they are dealt with by the clearest and most reliable statements I can make about being present during the times when I felt most absent. He has not hidden his face from him, but has listened to his cry for help. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as the day. I will never leave you nor forsake you. These are the clearest, most reliable, and forever valid statements that I was there and have never left, even during the times when my absence was felt the most. I speak for the specific person reading these words at the specific and genuine moment of the specific and genuine encounter with what they are saying. And I offer the clearest, most personally directed, most relevant, and most specifically personal assurance possible. I was there in every single, most acutely felt absence moment. I was there during every single one of the most painfully felt absent seasons. It is right now that I am here in this very present moment. I've always been with you. Not right now or at that exact moment. Not at any certain time of the year. I'll never leave you or forget about you. It felt that way at times, but I was there. Even when it seems like it, I am still here. Feel free to write, "Lord, I know you were there and I thank you," below. That should be your statement that you are open to receiving this prayer. Trusting the one who is there in every precisely felt absence moment and season, and who is here in this precisely felt present moment. I'd like to end by sending you on a journey through the real, daily, specific, and sometimes very truly costly practice of recognizing my presence in the most acutely felt absent seasons of the specific and particular life of the specific and particular person you are. The morning acknowledging, the specific and deliberate looking for evidence of my presence in the small and subtle form. The specific and deliberate speaking of the most direct and authoritative declarations about my presence into the most acutely felt absence interior experience of the specific and particular most acutely felt absence day. From now on, know that the times you felt my absence the most in the past were not actually times I was absent. During those times I was truly present, engaged, and personally invested in the specific and particular person during that season. I was truly available and effective for that specific and particular person during that season when they felt most acutely absent. I was there when it was very quiet. I was there in the season after the most expensive and devastating of the specific events. I was there when the pain, loss, or feeling of being alone was at its sharpest and most isolating. I was there for all of the miss you moments and seasons that were felt the most deeply. I've never left you, and I'm not going to. Never leave and never forsake mean the same thing in every single most painful absence moment and season of the future, as they did in every single most painful absence moment and season of the past, and in this very present moment. If God brought you here, He brought you here on purpose. These videos cost us everything and earn us nothing. Your support is what keeps this mission alive. Every gift, every seed, God honors it. Thank you from our whole hearts. Now, there is a place God is calling you to, a real community of chosen ones, people who pray together, grow together, and carry each other. God says, don't stay on the outside. The link is below. Come home, beloved. You should also know that during the most painfully felt absent seasons of the future, the ones that will come in the exact form that the future will produce, in the exact form that the specific and particular person's life will produce, they will be able to navigate them with the exact and particular, most genuinely present, most genuinely engaged, and most genuinely personally invested form of my presence. I will be there during the long periods of silence that come with the seasons that aren't here anymore. I will be there in the season after the most expensive and devastating specific and particular outcomes of the future's most acutely felt absent seasons. I will be there during the most intense and lonely times of pain, loss, or being alone in the future when you will feel the absence the most. I'll be there. I've always been with you. I will never leave you, even when it seems like I am. That's your last statement. Type, he was there, he is here, he will always be, in the comments. Let that be the statement you carry with you from this meeting into the days, hours, and times of acute absence in your life as the person you are. He was there. He's here. He'll always be, even when it really does feel that way. If this message has helped you find your way, made you stronger, or seen your path more clearly, please like, subscribe, and share it. You can also support this ministry through the link below so that other people can get this message at the right time.